Hey, pals, welcome back to the Nourished Soul podcast. This is a very special episode. Thank you so much for listening wherever you are in the world. But this is also the first podcast that I am recording and sharing on YouTube. So we are doing both an audio and a video recording, which is something I have really wanted to do for a while now. But, it's sort of when you start anything that scares you, whether it's your health journey, whether it's a new hobby, whether it's a new interest, whether it's going out to meet new people, we really need to just create the path of least resistance. And when I first started this podcast over 2 years ago now, I had to create the path of least resistance. I needed to make it as simple as possible, as easy as possible. I had to remove anything that was going to slow me down, hold me back, allow me to make excuses not to just start. And recording the podcast on video was that thing for me. It's a lot easier to just sit down, plug in a microphone, and press record, not have to worry about what you look like or, doing hair or makeup or figuring out how to even edit video. So that's exactly what I did. And now that I have launched the YouTube channel, I thought it could be fun to perhaps dip my toe into starting to record video podcasts as well and sharing them over on that platform. And what better episode to start with than a highly personal one? If you have been following along this week on Instagram, or if you have opened the emails I have sent out in House of Healing, or if you have watched the YouTube videos, by now you are aware that I am pregnant. And that was the big announcement that I have been alluding to over the last few weeks. And it's pretty big in terms of announcements. So, to sort of just wrap up this week where I am sharing very openly and vulnerably and sharing this really big news as I step into this new chapter, I put up a sticker on my Instagram asking for all of your questions because honestly, I have been wanting to share this for such a long time. And of course, my friends and family have known for a long time, people that see me in my day to day real life. But social media and you guys were sort of the last piece to that puzzle. And I didn't fully do that intentionally. It just sort of became, well, how should I share it? When should I share it? And then life just kept lifing. And then it became almost weird to share, or like I just didn't know how to do it. So I have officially shared the big news. Everybody knows it is out there now, along with my baby bump. Because let me tell you, there is no more hiding this thing at all. um, so I really just wanted to bring you all along on this journey with me, or at least what's left of it. And over on the YouTube channel, Nourished Soul with Stephanie, I have been documenting along the way. And maybe that's why I didn't share earlier, is because I felt like everyone will get to see the really intimate behind the scenes journey of finding out I'm pregnant, of all of the different phases and tests and all of the things that I've gone through so far. I will be sharing that very vulnerably and openly over on the YouTube channel. So I don't know. It's all out there. I'm very excited. So for today's episode, we are doing just an Ask Me Anything pregnancy because there is so much to fill you in on. And I had more responses with questions to this than ever before. It's like this was like a flood of questions. So we're going to try and get through them. I will try to be as succinct and yet open and raw and honest and authentic as I always am, and really just bring you guys in closer on this journey with me. And I'm really excited about it. I've had the most amount of feedback that has been so supportive and encouraging and loving. And I am trying already not to get emotional. So I really just want to say, honestly, the hugest thank you if you have sent some kind words, or if you have sent in a question, if you have responded to anything I've shared this week, if you have watched the YouTube channel. And I think my favorite comment I received was just like, your video made me cry. I was like crying right along with you. And it's nice to know I wasn't the only one crying when I watched that video back because it is really emotional. And yeah, so we're just going to sort of wrap up this announcement and do a little bit of a Q&A so I can fill you in on what's been happening and answer all of your questions. And then we will get back to our regular programming. So I've pulled up the questions and there's a fair amount of them, but there are some repeaters in here. There are some nice, just like really kind words in here. So let's just start from the top, I suppose. There were a few questions around the due date. One of them just says due date. Another one says, how far along are you? When is the baby due? You look gorgeous, by the way. Oh, thank you. Baby is due November 17th. And that would make them a Scorpio, which scares me a little bit. I'm not going to lie. And I think it's because I have seen so many reality shows where like I'm a Scorpio and my worst traits are that I'm like possessive and jealous, but they're very charismatic people. And I'm not going to lie, when I first found out, being like, well, maybe I can just go a few days later and the baby will be a Sagittarius and everything will be fine. But the reality is, with my age and my family history, I will probably be going earlier, if anything. I was born 2 weeks early. My siblings were also born 2 weeks early. I don't think the doctors are going to let me go beyond my due date. So we're looking at a Scorpio baby, which is fine. Everything is fine. The healthy baby, it doesn't matter the star sign. But if you are a Scorpio, or you're dating a Scorpio, or you're married to a Scorpio, or you have a Scorpio child, please let me know what that experience is like. And if you follow the traits of what they say a Scorpio is. I'm sure you're all lovely people. I just haven't come across many in my life, and the ones that I have don't fit the general description. So any feedback on that would be helpful. I did also have a few questions about how far along am I. I am currently 24 weeks pregnant, which is 6 months. So, surprise, I've been pregnant for a very long time at this point. And yes, I'm very good at keeping a secret. So, I also want to say, because this was something that always used to sort of low-key annoy me, when parents start saying how old their kid is by months, like, oh, he's 22 months, right? And you're like, as someone who doesn't have children, can you say they're just almost 2 years old or whatever it is? I kind of get it now, because when you are counting something week by week, there are a lot of things that change every single week in your body, with your symptoms. So I have a greater understanding, I suppose you could say, on why parents talk like that. And I will also say, when you are counting something week by week, it has made time go so quickly. I cannot believe that I am at the pointy end of this pregnancy. I can't believe that 6 months has already gone by and that we are going to have a human child in our world very soon. in just a few months. We are completely underprepared. We have nothing in the house, not a single like baby thing really in the house yet. So, yeah, we need to really get going on all of that and try not to stress too much along the way. But I'm not going to lie, it is getting a little overwhelming at this point. The next question says, nauseous? What symptoms have you had? I find this really fascinating because I have not been that nauseous. I was a little bit nauseous during the first trimester, but it wasn't anything like unmanageable, and I didn't throw up once this entire time. But I find it fascinating that that's almost the only symptom you get asked about when you're pregnant. I will say that I feel so lucky and so blessed because I haven't had a ton of symptoms. First trimester was definitely the most challenging. I was really tired and really exhausted, and I am not a person that takes naps. I really do not take naps unless I am or was like deathly hungover, to be totally honest. But otherwise, I'm the type of person that if I take a nap, I end up feeling worse afterwards. And then I'm not the greatest sleeper in the evenings as is. So it would screw up my nighttime sleeping and routine. But during the first trimester, there were a lot of days where I had no choice but to have a nap. And by no choice, I mean I just fell asleep on the couch. I couldn't control it. I was just absolutely knockout for 20 minutes, an hour in the afternoons. Obviously, I was still out walking dogs for my business and still running my coaching business. And that was really challenging. But yeah, so I was really exhausted the first trimester, falling asleep all the time. I did have a little bit of nausea, but it wasn't too bad. It wasn't unmanageable. I didn't get sick at any point. This might be TMI, but I have digestion like an absolute champion. And that is like a strange brag, but it's true. And something that I struggled with again at the start in first trimester was being a little bit backed up, a little bit constipated, not going for days at a time. That is something that I really struggled with because I'm aware of how important that entire process is to your overall health. And that was challenging. And what I learned was, because you learn all of these things along the way, you don't have a clue until you are deep in a Google rabbit hole. But your digestive tract will slow down the entire process so that the baby can take as many nutrients as possible from the foods that you're eating. So that was very fascinating. I just really focused on increasing my fiber, and eventually it has righted itself and we're fine now. But that was something that I definitely experienced for a while during the first trimester as well. I would say the biggest one for me was and continues to be my breathing. And again, nobody talks about this stuff. It's like, do you have nausea? No. Oh, you must have having a great pregnancy. And I am. Honestly, my heart goes out to anyone who experiences extreme nausea, having to lay in bed, not being able to keep food down. I can't imagine what that experience really is like. And I feel really grateful that I wasn't nauseous. So like, I get why people ask that because it's probably the most debilitating symptom, but it's not the only symptom. Is basically what I'm trying to say. So for me, the biggest one was my breathing. I would have shortness of breath. I couldn't even do a flight of stairs without being so out of breath. For 2 days, had extreme heart palpitation no matter what I was doing. If I was moving, if I was laying down, and I ended up having to go to my doctor, and I ended up having to go get an EKG, which all turned out fine. Again, this is just a normal part of pregnancy because your body is creating so much more blood and your hormones are going crazy. So your heart has to work so much harder to pump more blood to the baby now, which again, I learned about along the way. So that has been probably my biggest one is the shortness of breath, but also being congested. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice. I feel like I can hear it in my voice. I feel like every single morning of this pregnancy, I have woken up and I've had to blow my nose, and I'm always stuffy no matter what, no matter where I am, no matter the temperature, no matter what's going on. And it's really annoying. And again, it's that increased blood flow, increased everything, mucus, hormones, whatever. Like, if you're feeling a symptom during pregnancy, what I've learned is when you Google it, the result is going to say your hormones fluctuating and increased blood flow. And recently, in the last 2 weeks or so, I'm having what I think they call round ligament pain, which is at the bottom of my stomach, right above my lady bits. And it just feels like, and rightfully so, my ligaments are stretching, tearing a little bit. It's just a constant pain sort of thing. It's a dull ache. It has sharp pain sometimes. The way I describe it is it feels like my body is building a shelf unit to place this belly on for the next few months, which it essentially is. So it's been sort of interesting. Like, I notice when I'm rolling out of bed or off the couch or something like that, that I'm like groaning or I'm holding my lower belly as I just like start moving and walking around. And then once I get going, I'm fine. But it's nothing, again, unbearable. It's still fine. It's just there pretty much constantly. And I don't know if it's going to go away or if this is it for the next 3 months. The next question says, any cravings? What's your diet looking like right now? And I had another question that said, has your diet and exercise changed since falling pregnant? Which, that alone tells me that you are from the UK, because that is a saying we don't use over here in North America. And I love it. I think it's so adorable. Falling pregnant, like I just fell over and became pregnant, or I fell over onto my husband's bits and became pregnant. Any cravings? Nothing too extreme. I had more aversions than cravings. And even that wasn't extreme. It was sort of just like I didn't feel like a ton of protein. I didn't feel like what we were having for dinner that night. And that kind of coincided with the mild nausea I spoke about. Just every so often I'd be like, I cannot have whatever it was. And it was never anything specific every time. It was sort of day by day, situation by situation, whether something just grossed me out for no reason. In terms of cravings, I would say fresh fruit has been massive. Like, I just want the refreshing cantaloupe and watermelon and a lot of fruit. That would be my biggest craving. Oh, and I suppose my husband would say that I was craving breaded chicken cutlets in any form or variety. I was always that kid though growing up. When I went to a restaurant, I had to have the chicken fingers and fries. So I don't know, maybe that's just nostalgia, maybe it's specific craving, but it would be like breaded chicken sandwich, chicken fingers or tenders, chicken parm sandwiches or chicken parm. Yeah, I don't know. And I think that was really during my aversion phase that I just knew I would eat it, that it would be satisfying, that I would enjoy it. So I have been enjoying them. In terms of what my diet is looking like right now, I I mean, as you guys know, I already include carbohydrates into my low carb lifestyle. I would say right now I am not low carb even. I have been having carbs every single day. I've really just been still prioritizing protein as much as possible. Nothing is off limits. Let's just say that at this point. I really wanted to increase my fiber. So The way I've been really looking at it, which I think is a very healthy approach to any sort of healthier eating, especially when you're in a place where you just want like junk or chicken cutlets or breaded chicken. What can I add to this meal to make it healthier instead of what can I restrict or take away? So I've really been using that a lot throughout this pregnancy, especially when I was having the digestive issues. Where can I add more vegetables? Where can I add more protein and better sources of fiber? And I think for me, a big piece as well is that for over 15 years now, I have been having a greens drink in the morning, which is like 7 or 8 servings of vegetables a day in one drink. The one that I use is called Greens Plus Extra Energy by Genuine Health. And when I became pregnant, I couldn't have that anymore. And quite honestly, it has been the hardest thing I've had to give up. Like, not alcohol, not anything else. It's literally been this greens drink. And there's nothing inherently wrong with it. It's just there are some certain adaptogen herbs in the powder that they just don't have enough research on in terms of impact on a fetus, on a baby, on your breast milk, on all of that. So while it's extremely healthy, and I probably could have had it, I chose not to because I just want to obviously be as safe as possible. But after having it almost every day for 15 years and I don't drink coffee, it was really hard to give up. And it really was something that helped my digestive system, my immune system. And so without that, I have really had to focus on making sure I'm getting more vegetables through my diet and incorporating more fiber into my diet as well. But essentially, nothing is off limits right now. I have what I feel like. I don't overeat at this point because my baby bump is taking over the entire landscape of my stomach. I can't even eat big meals anyway. So my diet has looked like just trying to make the healthiest choices I can. Where can I add more healthy things? Where can I add some chia seeds or some nuts and seeds or some greens? Can I throw a handful of spinach in this or that? And enjoying lots of fresh fruit. Oh my gosh, especially now that it's summer and everything's coming into season. I have been really on a yogurt bowl kick recently. Fresh berries, fresh peaches, Greek yogurt, high protein yogurt, a little handful of granola, and a little bit of raw honey. Like, that has been my breakfast almost every day for a few weeks now. So yeah, I've still been having the odd junky food item that just sounds good. I feel like sometimes when it comes to cravings, it's sort of like whatever just sounds amazing at that time. And it could be a food, it could be a drink, but I don't have to get in my car and go rush out to get it. It's like I've done enough work on healing my relationship with food that it doesn't have that kind of power over me, even in pregnancy. It's more a conscious choice when I feel like it, when something just looks outstanding. I'm also understanding this might be my only pregnancy I ever experienced. And so I've just really been going with the flow and making healthy choices as much as possible, but still sprinkling in some less healthy options that just really fuel the soul, that feel like soul foods, that make me feel good, that make me happy. In terms of exercise, that has been a little more challenging. Like I shared, with the shortness of breath was challenging. First trimester, I don't think I exercised at all. Maybe a little bit, but definitely not often, because I was so afraid if I did a workout in the morning, I would fall asleep by noon. And actually that did happen, and that scared me because I have to be able to still go out and walk dogs in the afternoon. So I was just using that as my exercise, especially during the first trimester. Once I hit the second trimester, it genuinely felt like I was in my body again. Like, oh, there I am. And I had my energy levels back, and I started going back to the gym 2 days a week, really keeping it low key, but I was still lifting weights, and I am still lifting weights. And I am so proud of myself for that because I don't know, there's just something so badass about, first of all, there's something so badass about any woman lifting weights. Okay, period. But then when you factor in like having this like baby bump and growing a human and also lifting weights, it just is so cool to me. And the fact that I can do that. And so I'm going to. Not that I'm doing anything crazy. I've definitely modified, obviously, certain movements. I have not been doing any core exercises really. I have not been doing like hip lifts where you have a barbell across your stomach, right? Like, so I've been really careful, and I haven't been going crazy on high weights or trying to hit PRs at this stage in my life. But it feels nice to just move my body, do something that allows me to feel really strong in my body. And I just can't imagine going this whole 9 months without lifting weights, but then also in postpartum and having a newborn. It's like I felt like once I got my energy level back, I just had to go. I had to try and maintain what I have and just continue to lift heavy things for as long as I possibly can. And we'll see. I'm sure that's going to change again. Of course, I have been out walking every day, but I'm not paying attention to step counts or anything like that. Just really, I have to listen to my body. And there are days already, especially in the humidity, in the heat, where just going out, walking my own dog, doing a couple of my client dog walks, like that has to be enough. I can't push myself beyond that. I can feel it in my body now. I feel tired and achy. And like I said, that like lower belly pain. So it's really about doing things as safely as possible. But I'm really proud of myself for getting back in the gym and not just using this entire season to say like, screw it, let's just like lay on the couch and not do any of that. I just think it's so cool to be able to lift weights and grow a human at the same time. You feel like a superhuman. So, yeah, that's been the diet update and exercise update. Okay, the next question says, I hope this isn't rude, but were you guys trying or was it a surprise? I don't think that's rude. And honestly, when I put the question box up, I said, ask me literally anything. I will not be offended. I'm an open book. I want to share honestly my experience through all of this. And to answer that question, were we trying or was it a surprise? Yes and yes. We were sort of more intentionally trying, yes. Because of my age of being 41 years old, and because I have had previous health issues where I've had massive cysts removed from my ovaries a few years ago, I still didn't think it would work. Let's just say that. We were being a little more intentional. I was never going to do the IVF route. It just didn't interest me. It's not for me. I have tracked my cycle ever since because of the cyst. So I just wanted to make sure I'm aware of what's going on with my cycle. So we were more intentionally doing our thing around ovulation day, higher chance days. But even that, it wasn't like, okay, today's ovulation day, like we gotta go. It wasn't like regimented. It was very chill. We've always said if it happens, it happens. So I wasn't going to do anything extreme. I've always just trusted if this is meant for us, it'll happen. With that being said, my husband Hugh's brother and sister-in-law, they got pregnant at the very start of this year. In January, they did do IVF because they're even older than we are. And that sort of had us talking about it more seriously, being like, if this is something that we want or potentially want, we need to actually try. And sure, you can say if it happens, it happens, but literally all it took was just being a little more intentional time frame wise for us. And so we were trying, but it was also a surprise because I did not think it would work. Honestly, deep down, I had made peace with the fact this probably was never going to happen for me. And I really did not think it would work as quickly as it did for us, which we are so blessed and so lucky. And I know a lot of people struggle for a long time and for various reasons. And sometimes they don't get answers and they want it so badly. I feel like because we had a very relaxed approach, because I was at peace with the outcome, if it never happened, that maybe that's why it happened. Because I wasn't stressed out, because it wasn't regimented, because it wasn't, all of these things. Like, this wasn't our main focus of our life. If it happened, it happened. And it did. And it only took 2 tries for it to happen. Which, again, like I said, we're so lucky and so blessed for that. But it was a very big shock. It was a very big surprise. I genuinely didn't think it would work. The next question asks, what was your husband's reaction? There's another question that I'm going to tie the two together. And the other question is, what's been the hardest part so far? And just hear me out, because it wasn't his reaction. When I told Hugh, when we saw the positive result, he was really extremely sick. He had what we think was influenza A, and it was the worst day of when he was sick. It was the most extreme. So the initial reaction wasn't the best because he was like struggling and fighting for his life, essentially. And over time, and I'm just going to be extremely transparent about this, I would say that overall, his reaction was better than mine. He embraced it a lot easier. And I was having a very hard time with it for the first couple weeks. I had a hard time not letting my mind just go to a dark place about everything that I'm about to give up and lose that I've worked so hard for. Whereas with him, he's like, okay, it's going to be fine. Like, new chapter. This is going to be an adventure for us. And I really, really appreciated and needed him to be that grounding voice and to be that encouragement during that time, because I was a bit of a wreck. I was just so emotional and so upset about giving up probably my businesses and my income, and how are we going to afford this, and what are we going to do? And my brain just immediately went to future pacing, went to worrying, went to catastrophizing, went to worst case scenarios, and I couldn't stay present and give myself permission to be happy and excited about it. Like, I was just immediately riddled with fear and what does this mean? And how's my body going to change? And what's going to happen? And how are we going to survive? So his physical initial reaction, not the best, because he was so sick and I just wanted him to be like so excited, right? But he's literally like coughing his lungs out and I can't even go near him, really. And I had a hard time with it for the first few weeks. But in addition to that, the hardest part so far, one of the hardest parts so far, was that 2 days after we found out, I came down with this horrendous influenza, the most sick I have been in my entire adult life. Way worse than the vid by a long shot. I was sick for 12 days because I was pregnant now, couldn't take any medications, any like Tylenol colds or any sort of flu medication. I couldn't take anything. I could literally have tea and one regular Tylenol. And I was so scared of what's going to happen, which is probably what made the whole thing that much more challenging as well, is because I wasn't in a good place. I wasn't in a positive place. I was surviving every day. I was sleeping on the couch in the basement. Like, we basically found out this incredible news and then we're socially distanced for like 2 weeks. And it was really hard. And I was going through a lot of it alone and feeling awful. Like, I couldn't breathe. My lungs were just on fire, coughing, living off just tea and bone broth, and worrying now my baby's not getting nutrients, like so many things. That was definitely really hard to get this life-changing news and then feel like you are fighting for your life and then panicking like, is this going to do something to the baby? Am I going to have a miscarriage? And not knowing how that was all going to happen and play out. And then just mentally, it took a toll on me. I went into a really dark place. So my husband's reaction was better than mine, but we were both dealing with a lot at the time. And over time, that has gotten a lot better. We've been able to wrap our heads around everything. And yeah, that was very challenging. I would say another very hard part was getting an OB, an OBGYN in a major city in Canada where we have free healthcare, which is wonderful, but the system is broken. And I couldn't even track down my family doctor at the start. She had moved practices and didn't tell me. So once I finally tracked her down, the receptionist was like, well, I'll talk to her and see if she'll keep you on as a patient or not. And I was like, I just found out I'm pregnant. I need to see someone. I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know what comes next. So I go to a walk-in clinic and honestly met and had the most incredible doctor who carried me through the first 2 to 3 months of this pregnancy because I kept getting denied by OBs. And there's a whole process you have to go through to even get accepted by one. You have to have all this testing already done. It's not like they're like, oh, we'll just send you to the next doctor and then they'll book you for your ultrasound and they'll book you for this and that. It's like, no, you have to do all of that ahead of time. And then they send you to an OB. And then the OB will either say yes or no based on their schedule. So it was really stressful because, again, this is my first time being pregnant. This is my first time doing this. And you see in the movies, like, you get pregnant and you go get your ultrasound and like you get the blood work done and it's confirmed and all this stuff. And it's like, it doesn't work like that. And it was just chaotic and scary. And I just wanted to make sure that obviously I have a doctor to help me through this. But this walk-in clinic doctor, honestly, I was there almost every week, waiting in the waiting room at a walk-in clinic, seeing the same doctor because he was the one giving me all my requisition forms so I could get all of this testing done and jump through all of these hoops to even get a referral, to even get an OB. So that was really hard, especially at the start and not knowing. But bless him. Honestly, I'm going to go back and visit him. Like, who goes to a walk-in clinic to visit a doctor? Like, that's how much of an absolute angel this man was. And he's like, don't worry, I've got you through this for as long as it takes until we find someone for you. And it was just so reassuring. And Yeah, he's like the one that ordered my EKG, multiple blood tests, like ultrasounds, so many things. And now I have an OB, and that's great. And I've seen her multiple times now. So that was really hard though at the start. And especially again, just the not knowing and the uncertainty is hard. But I feel so much more at peace with all of this now. I am very happy to be pregnant. I'm very excited for this next chapter. It was really just an initial shock and surprise, even though, like I said, we were trying, doesn't mean I thought that it would actually work or that this would happen for us in this lifetime. I would say the final hardest part is, I don't want to get emotional, has been having to close my pet care business. Sorry. I have had that business for 15 years now. And it was my first venture into entrepreneurism and to just taking that big risk. I moved to a city I'd never even been to before. I was like, that's where I'm just going to open a dog walking business. And I did it. And I was in my mid 20s. And I have had so many clients, obviously, throughout the years. And it has been my most stable and secure bread and butter income. Obviously, I love what I do in my coaching business because it fulfills what I believe is my purpose, but it's not as consistent as having, you know, you're going to walk a dog 5 days a week, every week, and that's your schedule, right? So it's a little more unpredictable. But I have had to make the decision to close that business down because I am the sole owner and operator. I don't have a huge clientele at this point, which was by choice after the pandemic so that I could open the coaching business. So essentially, I have two very strong part-time businesses that equal a full-time job and then some. But like I said, this one is the most stable income that I have. This one is been the longest business that I've had, but realistically, there's not enough clientele to hire someone and pay them and then take a cut of their pay. It's not worth it. And I don't really want the stress of having to manage employees during this season. And I realistically cannot give birth in November and be out walking dogs in a Canadian winter with a newborn. So I've had to email all my clients, which I just did a week or so ago. And what's so fascinating about that is I have not really been that emotional this whole pregnancy, which is really bizarre for me because I'm a very emotional person. But I haven't had like mood swings or crying at everything. I've been totally fine this whole pregnancy. And I swear, as soon as I sent that email to my clients closing my business, I have been, if you're watching this on video, I'm literally like fanning my eyeballs to try to not bawl. As soon as I sent that email, I have not been able to stop crying at everything, at the littlest things. Even thought of it makes me cry. So, anyway, that is a very hard part of all this. And gosh, if you're listening, I'm so sorry. This is probably really annoying to listen to, just like broken cry words, you know? I'm always that way though. It's like I could be really upset and then the second you try to speak, it's like the floodgate opens. Um yeah, so that's a really hard part. Of course I'm going to and I really want to keep up with my coaching business. Of course. Will I be taking a bit of a hiatus? Also, yes, probably from this podcast as well. I will probably to be documenting a fair amount on YouTube though. So make sure that you are subscribed over there because I think it's just a more conducive place to share what's going on in my life as I step into this next chapter. But yeah, those have been the hardest parts, which brings me to the next question, which reads, has it been hard with the changes in your body? I would say yes and no. Like, it's funny because I was at the OB's office just a few days ago and they do weigh-ins every single time you're there. And if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know that I don't even own a scale and I don't care to weigh myself and it doesn't matter. So it's been really interesting to be weighed in every time I go somewhere. And the receptionist is so sweet. Even the first time I went, she's just like, are you number sensitive? Because, like, I'll cover it if you want, which is really nice. And I believe all doctors' offices really should offer that. I could not give a shit about the number whatsoever. So it means literally nothing to me. It is just my gravitational pull on this planet right now. That's all that number means to me. But it was really interesting this last time I went a few days ago because I am only a few pounds away from how much I weighed when I started my keto journey to begin with back in 2018. But it just obviously feels different and hits different when it's because you're growing a human being versus just self-neglect and not caring for yourself. And I started my keto journey because I was just sick of my own bullshit. And I think we know when we are not taking care of ourselves and that we are using food and alcohol, in my case, and drugs, like using weed all of the time to just numb and escape and avoid what's actually going on in your life and creating a really toxic relationship with food and those other substances. Whereas this is the polar opposite to that. So this is all about nourishing my body, growing a new life, and taking care of myself and this little one. So it has been a little bit hard at times, I would say, to see the changes in my body. And I would definitely say it was before I actually had a proper baby bump, because it was during that time that I felt like when I looked in the mirror, I just saw that old version of myself that was like overweight and unhappy. And it really triggered a bit of that for me in terms of like trying to get dressed, because it just looked like I was like really bloated or that I'd like put on some pounds, but I didn't look pregnant yet. And that was hard. I think that that was the hardest part. But now that I have a proper bump and there's like literally no question, like, is she pregnant? Is she not? It's been a lot more fun to dress, and it's made it easier, I would say. And like I said, I don't really care about the number on the scale. Although at this point I have gained 20 pounds since I started. So 20 pounds in 6 months. I think they say average weight gain during pregnancy is 25 to 35. And I still have 3 months to go. So I'm not going to lie that I'm kind of hoping over the next 3 months the only additional weight I put on from that is just all baby, not me. But at the same time, I have done it before. I know I can do it again. And because I've worked so hard on my relationship with food, on relationship with myself, on my relationship with my body, I know that I will do it again and that I'll do it in the time it feels right for me. I'm not going to attempt some sort of crazy bounce back, but I am going to share and document all of that over on my YouTube channel because I'm just going to, like I said, keep it real, keep it transparent. And for me, it's just about how I feel. And it always has, and it always will be. So I don't think it's been hard because, like I said, this is for a completely different cause versus my self-destruction. So that makes it a lot different and a lot easier. And I'm really looking forward to, yeah, just seeing my body continue to change and really, how can I nourish and care for it afterwards? And just focusing on how I feel and how I want to feel. Okay, the next one is, how was your glucose tolerance test? That is why I was at the OB's office just a few days ago, and it was fine. I mean, once you've done keto for a while, you're just so hyper aware of sugar. So the fact you're guzzling and drinking this bottle of sugar water, but I downed it. I did not drag that thing out. I just downed it within a minute. And then, yeah, you just have to wait an hour and then get your blood drawn. I don't have the results yet, but gosh, I hope that they'll be fine. I don't really want to do it again, and I don't want gestational diabetes on the cards. So I guess I'll keep you guys updated with that. What else? Oh, how are you feeling? That is such a lovely question, you know? I am feeling really well. Like I said, second trimester has been incredible. Being able to just feel like myself, energy wise, physically, for the most part. Emotionally, we've taken a bit of a turn, like I just shared a couple weeks ago. Uh, Sending out that email to my dog walking clients just opened this emotional floodgate. So I have been a little more emotional and feeling a little more overwhelmed, which I think is totally normal given that we are 3 months out. You know, it was the combination of sending that email and then hitting this 24-week, 6 month mark that you're just kind of like, holy crap, this is happening and this is happening soon. And it feels a little overwhelming. I mean, a lot overwhelming. And I start feeling like there's just not enough days to get it all done. And there's so many things to still do and still see, and people that we need to meet up with and get hand-me-downs and all of these things, and a baby shower that's coming up soon. And you're sort of like looking at the calendar and freaking out a little bit for all the things that need to get done between now and then. And then you factor in the unpredictability of labor. Like, just because November 17th is my due date does not mean that that's the day I'm going to be having a child. So you have to be prepared ahead of time in case of so many scenarios. So it's a bit overwhelming. So that's how I'm feeling. Overall, really good pregnancy wise, but now the emotions and the overwhelm are starting to take over. So I've really got to get back into being more intentional around my rituals to stay grounded and centered, and just start checking the boxes and just really start moving on a lot of things so that I feel more at peace towards when baby arrives. The last one I'm going to answer is sort of a combo of a few questions that came up, but they're similar. Are you going to find out the gender? Did you do a gender reveal? Any names? Have you picked any names? We are going to find out the gender. I personally was willing to keep it a surprise until the end because I'm one of those people, I just love surprises. But my husband is very not that way. Like, wants to know as soon as possible sort of person. So yes, we're going to find out. No, we're not going to do a gender reveal. It's just not us. We're just way more low key than that. We really like to keep moments like that very intimate between the two of us. You know, I mean, we only had 20 people at our wedding, and it was just him and I when we got engaged, and it's just going to be him and I when we find out, and then we will figure out a way to share with everyone. But in terms of names, oh my goodness. We have a list of girl names and a list of boy names. And why are girl names so much easier to come up with? I feel like I have like 4 options I would happily go with for girl names. And then when it comes to boy names, it's so challenging. I find boy names way harder. And if you are watching this on YouTube, or if you're not, like, go over to the YouTube video and please, in the comment section, I would love to hear all of your favorite names, either names you didn't use but you loved, or names that you would like to use one day, or I mean, obviously, if you don't want me to steal it. But I'm pretty sure it's fine. Our kids aren't going to grow up together, whatever. But yeah, I find girl names way easier. I find boy names a little more challenging, but we're still plugging away on a list. There's still time. We haven't picked one at this point. We're not calling this bump by a name. Actually, we do call it by a name. Its name is Blueberry or Bloob for short, which I'll be sharing in the next YouTube video. It's because of the very first ultrasound I got. It looked like a blueberry. But yeah, I really need help in the name department. Girl names, boy names, all the names. Honestly, comment below in the YouTube video so I can either steal one or we can just like talk about it, because I love hearing people's names. I think they're so creative. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. So, no, we haven't picked one. We haven't landed on something, but we have a running list going. So, I would love for you to help contribute to that. And maybe you have a great name that we just have not considered. So, I'm going to wrap it up here because I've been rambling long enough. I just want to say, again, the hugest thank you to everybody who has commented, who has reached out to me. I have literally, like I said, because I'm emotional, have been in tears all week reading your messages. And I really also want to say thank you for just letting me have this space to share something so personal and really be able to witness me in this moment. It means a lot, and I'm really grateful. And we will get back to some of our usual programming next week. Make sure that you are subscribed to the YouTube channel because I am bringing you along behind the scenes on this entire journey. Nourished Soul with Stephanie. And yeah, if you have any questions or you want to share anything from what I shared in this episode, you can click the Connect with Stephanie button down in the show notes or DM me on Instagram anytime. Okay. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.